It is Monday, April 20th, 2020. You know what time it is. Here's your quick shot of news and whiskey. Demonstrators across the country were out violating social distancing orders in order to call for the reopening of their states. These protests have been taking place in places such as Indiana, Wisconsin, Maryland, Michigan, Texas, Utah. There's a lot of them. Now stay with me here. The more I think about it, the more I feel like Trump is doing a ventriloquist act. But the dummy is his Twitter. That came out of nowhere? Care to explain? You know I do. But first. Ready. After raising absolute hell 1 week ago about how he and only he could reopen the states, President Trump relented and said that that power rested in the hands of the governors and that the White House would do anything in their power to back them. And yet, some of these protests over the weekend were actually encouraged by President Trump on Twitter, specifically those in Michigan, Virginia, and Minnesota. So how I interpret that, you were right, you can open your state, I'll support you.
You want state support? You got it. Take to the streets, people of the state.
Wasn't me. Now obviously no one is enjoying our current standard of living. It sucks, plain and simple. But what does safely opening the United States of America actually look like? In a conference call with over 20 epidemiologists, the New York Times reported on what some safe openings could look like, but also kept in mind what kind of drawbacks may come up in the future. One possibility of reopening would be only after coronavirus cases declined consistently over 14 days, 90% of contacts of infected people could be traced, healthcare workers were no longer getting infected by the virus to ensure there was enough staffing at hospitals, and recuperation sites still existed for mild cases to isolate and help not spread more infection. That is asking a lot. None of that is easy. But no matter what these epidemiologists strategized, one thing became very clear and was mentioned over and over again. Testing. Testing is the key to uncovering and discovering where this invisible menace is and where it's heading next. And I know the media is calling it an invisible menace, which is just so lazy, because Phantom Menace is just hanging out right there, and Darth Maul is clearly a foreshadowing of what the coronavirus looks like. But I digress. The current rate of testing is roughly 146,000 tests per day, and that number is nationally, not locally. And so far, a total of 3.6 million tests have been administered. But to open the economy again by mid-May, which is what I can safely say all Americans are hoping for, the number of tests administered nationally would have to increase by 300%, or over 500,000 tests per day at minimum. With shortages of testing materials across the board, that number seems very unfortunately out of reach. But wait, there's more. The jury is still out on whether people who have already been infected by the coronavirus are immune to it, there's a window of immunity, or there is no immunity at all. At this point, all of that is just educated guessing because none of that has been scientifically proven, which is also pretty discouraging. But one thing I know for sure, if there is anyone who I want to give an educated guess, it is the people who have a massive amount of education on that subject, and not someone who posits they've somehow miraculously inherited knowledge of infectious diseases from an uncle. Remember that one? I know I do. But wait, what would that uncle think of you encouraging all of those people to break social distancing rules, Mr. President? Or did you forget to consult your ancestors before picking up your phone? Maybe next time think of your family. Or hell, all of our families who are just trying to stay safe and healthy during this very uncertain time before you pick up your phone and let the dummy take the wheel again.
'Cause that guy's a dumbass.
Wasn't me. In other news, the government is nearing an agreement on another relief package that's estimated at about $450 billion, and that would replenish emergency funding for small businesses and testing. At this point, does anyone else feel like these dollar amounts are meaningless? Because I sure as hell do. It's like when I would have salsa left over at a Mexican restaurant and I would ask for more chips and they'd be like, oh, it's 50 cents for another basket of chips. And I'm like, I don't care, just bring them. I want to finish this salsa. I miss you, Jaliscos. Many auto insurance companies are offering a decrease in premiums to their customers because they know that cars aren't being used as much during this time of quarantine. Stop! Insurance companies aren't trying to finagle your money away from you? These truly are strange times. I have a very small amount of whiskey left. Luckily, we're on our last story. And finally, April 20th is National Lookalike Day. So, in the spirit of doing pointless internet memes during quarantine, who are you the love child of? I'll go first. My dads would be John Krasinski and Adam Scott. If you feel like it and you have the time, let me know what your parents would be. And quick side note, I know that today is also a day of a different kind of celebration, but those that do celebrate are already well aware and, against stereotype, don't really need a reminder on this occasion. And that's all I got for you today. I hope that you've been staying happy and healthy. I'll see you back here on Wednesday, and until then, my last little sip of whiskey. Cheers.